In this video, I'll be covering everything you need to know to dominate your opponents with the Cyborg Ninja, no matter your skill level. This guide has been divided into chapters to make it easier to navigate, so feel free to use the timestamps as you wish.
Know yourself in the face of death.
Genji is a very mobile and versatile character, being well suited for flanking, diving, dueling, you name it. But he is definitely at his strongest when up close to his targets and especially when getting dash resets. Although not great at it, he is very capable of poking, being able to smoothly transition between landing damage at range and finishing someone off with a dash engage once an enemy drops low. For these reasons, pathing, positioning and timing are crucial skills to get good at, since they will set you up for success in the plays you want to make. Pathing consists of navigating the map to get to places of interest while avoiding unnecessary danger, so it is interconnected with positioning, which is easy to understand but hard to master. A good position can easily become bad as the context of a situation changes over time, such as an enemy rotation suddenly putting you in a dangerous spot. Let's go over this following scenario to make these concepts easier to understand. After isolating and eliminating Orisa, I find myself amidst two enemies rotating high ground, compromising my positioning and forcing me to go back to my team to get healed. While my cooldowns reset, I make my way up to the high ground again, finding an unaware Ashe shooting down on my team, a free pick due to my timing and pathing. Afterwards, having overhealth from Lucio beat and seeing an isolated Zenyatta, I quickly force an engagement to confirm another elimination, then turn my attention to the remaining enemies, which are focused on my team so I can make use of the opportunity to hit them from the side with little risk, netting as a clean fight win. It's important to note how the fight was already in motion before I started making plays, which helped me find opportunities to capitalize on while everyone was distracted. But what do you do before a fight starts? First, you need to define what your current objective is. For example, if you are coming out of spawn at the start of a round, your first priority should be to see who the enemy is playing and how they're positioned. With that information at hand, you can now determine which areas of the map are safe or dangerous and start making decisions. Should I play with my team? Am I trying to flank around to contest a sniper? Should I force a duel with an opponent playing away from their team, trying to hold a powerful off angle? And then with a goal in mind, you can look to make that play, but always staying alert in case circumstances change and you are forced to adapt. Just because you had a plan in mind doesn't mean that you have to stick with it until you execute it. Maybe the enemy team is playing in a way that prevents you from realizing that idea, so be flexible. Look for a better opportunity elsewhere or work alongside your team to make that plan viable.
I still have much to learn.
Moving on, let's talk about the many roles Genji can take depending on the situation, starting with his main one, dueling. In general, a good way to judge the risk-reward of a duel is to answer the following question. How much would a pick matter for each team in this scenario? Some important factors to consider are how many players are alive on each team, how far away from the fight spawn rooms are, what resources each team or player has available, including ultimates, cooldowns, health, and even map control, between many others. It sounds like a lot to think about, but don't feel overwhelmed. As you make mistakes in your judgment, you will learn and improve, making this process easier and more natural as you accumulate experience from playing the game. With that said, as valuable as eliminations may be, they are not the main objective of the game, and thus it's important to realize when it's more useful to simply stay alive contesting an enemy rather than to risk your life attempting to kill them. In that case, a soft engagement is ideal since it allows you to back up and survive if the play doesn't go according to plan, unlike a hard engagement where you go in with everything you have expecting to either get good value or die trying. We can even tie these ideas back to what we discussed previously about pathing and positioning to further emphasize just how powerful smart play can be. For example, you may see that the enemy team has a rather vulnerable backline, but if you play alongside your team, getting past the enemy frontline might prove to be too difficult, and now you find yourself stuck in a position better suited for other characters. Because of that, you look to be more effective and dash to close the gap on a support, only to find that your play is extremely optimistic and that you are now waiting to respawn after going in 1v5. The next time, instead of playing an autopilot, you think about how to safely get to the enemy backline without using your dash, which often comes down to flanking around the map or waiting in a hidden position for the enemy to walk past you. Now with a proper setup, you engage the backline with more resources available and a surprise factor, drastically increasing your odds of success and removing most of the risk from the play, since you can now dash out if things go poorly. This slight shift in how you approach the plays you want to make is incredibly powerful, and it will turn your average Genji enjoyer into a lobby-stomping cybernetic menace, just like the longtime viewers of this channel that have been VOD reviewed during live streams here on YouTube. I offer free coaching to anyone looking to improve their game. Simply submit a replay code of one of your matches either in my Discord server or through the Google Forms link in the description. I'm proud to have gotten the opportunity to help so many players and to see their growth, and I hope to continue doing so for many more to come. Alright, but what else might be Genji's job? A big one is to follow up on setups from your team, such as a good anti-nade from Ana or big damage coming in from your team that they can't capitalize on. Another is to punish glaring mistakes, such as going for an isolated target that you can constantly win against, or helping focus down a tank diving in too aggressively before they get away or find value. Since his dash resets after every elimination he participates in, contributing damage towards your team's targets is really useful since it increases the chances they will go down, and confirming kills improves Genji's effectiveness, making him exceptionally good alongside other highly mobile characters in a dive team composition. So, to sum it up, dueling is your main role, but you're very capable of doing other stuff, such as diving and cleaning up fights, flanking, off-angling, or being an assassin, you name it.
The objective is mine.
Even though the game is objective-based, it is oftentimes best to ignore it temporarily in favor of controlling the map and winning a fight before looking to pressure point or defend it. This is especially true for Genji due to his kit, so always look to set yourself up for success given the opportunity, such as walking up to hold a powerful forward position after cleaning up your enemies to slow down the recontest and put them at a disadvantage. There are some situations where you want to play the objective, but most often than not, your time is better used elsewhere. Also, one tip for both control and push is to pick Symmetra before the round starts to teleport your team out of spawn and then quickly swap back to Genji, as the mirrored map design in these modes grants the faster team a positional advantage on the most important fight of the round, since it determines not only who gets control of the objective first, but also which team gets more ult charge and better map control for the next fight.
Flow like water.
Now let's go over the mechanics of playing Genji, a very difficult yet rewarding part of the hero. His primary fire is very reliant on predictions due to the ranges it will be used in, while his secondary fire should be treated as hit scan most of the time, since you want to use it when close to your targets. This means landing shots often comes down to distance rather than skill, but this doesn't mean you should give up on poking and purely focus on pathing to get close and only then fighting. Combos and animation cancels are very useful tools at your disposal, and understanding the full extent of what is possible to do on the character opens up a wide variety of plays that can be made, so let's go over these topics. To start, most actions can have their animation cancelled, with a few caveats. Wall climb is the only ability that can be used while pulling out blade, and has to either be cancelled or finished to allow other actions. Dash works similarly, except that it can't be cancelled, only shortened by hitting a surface before traveling the full 15 meters. Deflects can be cancelled both manually and by override from something like dash or wall climb. All of the three can cancel shooting animations from both primary and secondary fire, a trait commonly used to get a free shot while doing another action. Melee can also do this animation cancel, but it prevents most actions from being used until the end of its animation, with the exception of ulting and wall climbing. During Dragonblade, you can dash right after a swing deals damage to not only make the next one happen sooner, but also to get more burst damage, which is especially useful when this combo deals lethal damage, as it allows you to burst targets through Transcendence healing if executed fast enough. Additionally, it's possible to delay the shift animation when the ultimate timer ends by using deflect, or to skip it entirely by either dashing or wall climbing. It's also important to note that after shooting, there is a forced delay until you can fire more shurikens, something very important for combos, our next topic. Dash into secondary fire plus melee is one of the most consistent and useful tricks Genji can pull off, offering 167 burst damage for a triple body shot and 254 damage with headshots, although the latter is rarely pulled off. If you're fighting a 200 HP enemy and land 2 body shots or 1 headshot on them, they are already under danger from this combo, meaning that even a small bit of poke damage can be enough for you to pounce on the opportunity given you're properly positioned for it. In this case, it's important to not animation cancel a shot before the dash, as it would prevent you from shooting as soon as the dash finishes, losing most of the burst damage and therefore the whole reason to go for the combo, which is to quickly transform a small amount of poke into a quick finish before your target becomes aware of the danger and has a chance to get help or to look for counterplay. Another really important breakpoint to keep in mind is a simple yet precise triple headshot plus melee at point blank, dealing 204 damage without needing a single cooldown. There are many possibilities, so play around to get a feel for how Genji's kit works, and you will be able to pull off optimizations everywhere while staying flexible to the situation.
My aim is unerring.
Being a cyborg ninja, Genji has access to great movement tools, but that doesn't justify you mindlessly spamming double jump while missing all your shurikens. Aim and movement should work together, not fight each other, so the first step towards achieving harmony between the two is to realize that hitting your shots has very little to do with mechanical skill. If you are completely safe and in a good position, why make aiming harder than it needs to be by changing your height elevation all the time? This forces you to move your crosshair on 2 axes instead of just 1, significantly increasing the difficulty of the task for no reason. Deliberate character movements will have a positive effect on your accuracy as well as force you to learn how to assess the danger of each situation. The bigger the threat, the more important dodging becomes, while aiming takes a step back. In a duel, one of the best ways to gain a massive advantage is to put pressure on your opponent, which is done by damaging them so they start rushing their shots and therefore miss more often, so you should try to balance your focus between aim and movement around the matchup at hand to always have an edge. Alright, time for a quick question. Would you rather attempt to hit a Pharah standing still or a Lucio breakdancing on your face? The answer is easy, and yet most players don't consider this in a match. Why go for hard shots when easy ones are available? Aside from target priority, there isn't much argument for this kind of decision making, so let's open our minds to the magical realm of vulnerabilities. Some of the most common are standing still, being unaware, feeling safe, too close to dodge, predictable movements such as being stuck mid-jump or running for cover, and the list goes on. Whenever you spot these, as long as you don't rush your opportunity or miss the timing window, you can abuse these chances to get free pickoffs. You can even use your mobility to create favorable scenarios, such as running through a door frame, breaking line of sight with a player chasing you, then changing sides while hidden by natural cover to gain a surprise factor by being in a different position from what would be expected. Good crosshair positioning is always valuable to facilitate aiming, especially here as you won't have much time before your enemy notices you aren't where they expect you to be and look around to find you. Before moving on, here are 2 great movement tips I wish all Genji players knew. When wall climbing below a balcony, start moving backwards before getting too close to the ceiling so your upward momentum doesn't make you bonk your head. This will give you more time to clear the ledge so you can double jump at the right time to get to high ground. And if you want to maximize your air time, only double jump after dashing, preferably waiting for your fall to start accelerating before resetting your vertical speed.
I am ready.
Who doesn't love watching a pro Genji dash around the battlefield? After all, his cooldowns are some of the most interesting in the game, starting with dash, a movement and damage resource with the unique aspect of instantly becoming available for use upon participation in an elimination. Because of this, it's easy to get greedy and endlessly engage enemies as all you need to do is finish someone off to be able to get out alive. A common, hyper-aggressive way to play that results in really high death counts and inconsistent results across different matches. Being a playmaker doesn't require you to die a lot, contrary to what a lot of Genji players believe, but we already went over this topic earlier when talking about pathing. Instead of dashing into your enemies and quickly being forced to deflect out, it's probably better to walk up to a position close to your enemies, trade some shots while looking for any opportunities, and if you are in danger, stall with deflect since it is a less flexible cooldown than dash and therefore is generally the best one to use if you only need one of them to survive. If you get in danger again while down your deflects, only then use your dash to get out to a safe spot. It may seem at the start that the first scenario is better, but the lazy engagement is optimistic at best, and if you get out alive, has a lot of downtime, while the second scenario provides high uptime and is ready to pounce on any opportunity that appears. This comparison also shows how dealing damage with dash is not always good, oftentimes losing in this department to a dash used solely for mobility due to the differences in uptime and downtime. To make follow-up combos after dashing easier to hit, a really nice tip is to purposefully slam into a surface, giving you way more control over the exact spot you stop in. Increasing your height elevation helps you pinpoint that spot, so jumping once or twice can be really useful to achieve a higher level of precision. Moving on, Deflect is a great resource for mind games and for enabling combos. For example, you may purposefully make yourself vulnerable to bait your enemies into focusing you, just to turn their damage back at them and either straight up get an elimination or set yourself up for a quick follow-up. One thing to be wary of when using Deflect to close the gap on an opponent is when to cancel it. When you reach point blank range, it's very tempting to just drop it and go for a secondary fire plus melee combo, a telegraphed play that your opponents will attempt to exploit to shut you down, so I have found great success just holding Deflect and letting them outplay themselves. Also, don't be afraid to use it preemptively when crossing dangerous sightlines, as you can't react to everything. On the other hand, if you can consistently react to a threat, always use Deflect reactively instead of preemptively. And if said threat is a cooldown, keep track of the time it takes for it to become available again, so you can outplay it repeatedly.
The dragon becomes me!
Arguably the strongest part of Genji's kit, Dragonblade is a powerful yet tricky weapon to use well, so let's start by going over the engagement. Ideally, you want to be at swing range from your targets the moment you finish casting your ult, making one of the best ways to start the play dashing above your foes to drop on them ready to slice them up. This approach has a lot of pros and cons. It provides great scouting, makes it easy for your team to support you with targeted resources, such as a healing orb or an allied bubble, as well as being decently safe due to double jump's potential to outplay enemy cooldowns and avoid incoming damage, but it also telegraphs your engagements and focuses the entire enemy team on you, which can very well be a death sentence if you're going in with little support and your opponents hit their shots. Because of this, the timing of your ultimate is a big factor in how successful you're gonna be, so whenever possible, have your team draw attention and enemy resources onto them to thin out the chances of you being stopped on your tracks. Another really important aspect to consider is the desired value from your next blade. Understanding what or how much you need to do is very valuable, since setting your expectations helps you think about the best way to proceed in order to achieve your goal. Maybe confirming a solo kill on a support is a big enough advantage that your team wins that fight, or the situation is so dire it requires you to eliminate 4 on your own. With an objective in mind, it's time to iron out their plan by considering what options for counterplay your enemies have, such as an escape ability like Fade or a crowd control tool like Boop, what the expected time to kill of your target is, and how likely you are to succeed or fail, which mostly comes down to how much of the situation is in your control. For example, if you want to solo ult an isolated Moira, her only way to win is to fade away from you after you burn your dash, since she has fixed low damage output and thus is incapable of winning a raw DPS battle against an ulting Genji. Knowing this, all you have to do is save your dash to follow up her movement instead of trying to use an animation cancel to be as fast as possible. On the other hand, if you are playing against high skill ceiling characters such as a Widowmaker, no matter how well you play, there is always the chance she hits a clutch headshot and shuts you down. In cases like this, as long as you don't turn off your brain and, let's say, waste your dash when your target still has an escape available, your speed will determine how likely you are to be successful. To finish this section, let me show an example of a really smart play where I had almost full control over the outcome. After seeing the enemy Zarya use her projected barrier on their Reinhardt, I dash up to make it easy for my Ana to nano boost me and land on high ground to avoid Brigg's effective range. In the span of 2 seconds, 5 ultimates are used in an attempt to stop me, but since I positioned myself in a very neutral position, instead of hard committing, I'm able to bait my opponents and dance around the battlefield to dodge their resources, only going in when it's a good decision to do so.
Strength flows through me!
Information is key when making a decision, so I did all of the most relevant math and made it easily accessible through 7 infographics, available to download for quick use through the drive folder link in the description. Before I do a quick dive into the most relevant breakpoints to know, let me quickly mention Genji's damage values, since lots of players don't know them. Shurikens do 29, melee does 30, dash 50, and the blade swing a whole 110. Alright, on the far left side, an important number to keep in mind is 7 because headshots count as 2 shurikens, and you can swap 1 for a melee, meaning you can one-shot a character with that HP pool or below without using a single cooldown. A little further to the right, seeing a 6 means a perfect triple headshot dash combo will execute your targets, and 3 for the same combo if you only hit body shots, which is way more realistic. As you get an intuitive sense of this through experience, you will be able to notice breakpoints on the spot, such as hitting a 250 HP enemy 3 times to lower the usual dash combo requirement from headshots to body shots, and then going in for a better chance of a pickoff. On the right side, 2 dashes are a little weaker than 1 swing, an important thing to keep in mind in case you need to use them solely for mobility. Also, a dash at the start of the combo means you are damaging your target before ulting to get another dash, a rather dangerous maneuver, so don't go for it unless the situation allows it. Lastly, the most important blade breakpoint is a simple swing dash, as it lets a skilled player eliminate his foes through transcendence healing. Damage amplification sources are really powerful for Genji, since they make 200 HP targets accessible to a triple body shot dash combo, as well as a quick swing dash, transforming him into a deadly one-shot machine. Those are the most important breakpoints to know, but if you're curious about the rest, go check them out!
The winds of death are strong.
Everyone has been freaking out about the current iteration of the damage roll passive, granting 25% faster reload and movement speed upon any elimination, and while I do believe it will likely be changed or reworked, I think there is an overreaction on how it affects Genji specifically. After all, he is already great at snowballing an advantage with his unique dash reset mechanic, so this feels like a cherry on top when compared to the effect this has on a hero like Reaper. For this reason, I have a feeling that the hidden strength no one is looking at is the buff this provides to clutch plays. Let's consider the following hypothetical scenario. 2 teams clash and 3 players die, resulting in a 4v3 scenario where the odds to win the fight are 75% to 25%. If Genji triggers his roll passive, the odds change by plus 2% for his team. If the team that is currently winning has a Genji and the losing team doesn't, the chances become 77 to 23%. But if the opposite is true, they will instead become 73 to 27%. While this is very abstract, it serves to illustrate my point. The damage roll passive aids a comeback way more than a snowball. So what's the takeaway, you may ask? My answer is that it doesn't change how you play Genji. The only roll passive that has such an effect is the support self-heal after not taking damage for a small amount of time, as it enables more aggressive play, being especially powerful for Ana due to the offensive power her biotic grenade holds. One important thing to keep in mind when fighting isolated supports is that missing a few shots in a row will let their passive kick in, increasing the breakpoints required for an elimination. Lastly, hitting tanks will award reduced ultimate charge, so ignoring them whenever possible but respecting their existence is ideal.
I'm on fire!
Just like in real-life sports, warming up is a great way to achieve better performance, as well as preventing injuries when gaming, so I always do some drills to increase my blood circulation and get my head in the game before diving into competitive. It's also important to pay attention to your posture, as an unhealthy player will quickly develop strains and pain, hindering their short-term performance and risking worse issues later down the line. For more information on healthy gaming, check the links in the description. Thanks for watching! If you would like to watch more content like this, check out some of my past uploads and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for future video releases. See you next time!